again. But we have a few. So starting off at the first is each paid staff person receives a 20% discount on store merchandise sold over $1 and to all paid Young Life staff. Now let's talk some nitty gritty. I want you to circle the word store. We do not offer this discount in concessions or coffee or crafts. This is store only. 20% is the retail price. It has to be over $1 to qualify for that. So you can't buy that 90-cent sticker and get 20% off. And it's if you get a paycheck from Young Life. Number 2 under that is the discount is to be used on purchases of personal items for Young Life staff and their dependents. This is not the discount to, hey, leader, let's be the hookup for all of our friends that we brought to camp. No, this is for you. You have a spouse or a child, this is for them. And some of the things it does not apply to, if it's under $1, doesn't apply. If it's on sale, doesn't apply. If it's for a camp musician item, doesn't apply. If it's on gift cards, this happened actually a couple weeks ago where a retail manager sold a bunch of gift cards to an area and gave them all staff discounts. They'll get their staff discount at the point of use, not at the point of purchase of a gift card. And then finally, anytime we have a consignment item. So those are the little nuances to it. I just would memorize this and then be prepared to see it abused, right, Tammy? This is just something that we have to delicately, diplomatically manage. So, Tammy, do you have any examples of that?
You know, when you think about the staff and their dependents, we've had 30-year-old children of staff members come and ask for discounts. And we've had to say no because they're over the age of 18, if you think about it. I mean, that's that delicate thing. And if their parent wants to come in and purchase it, by all means. But
Yep.
Yeah, there has to be a hard line. Otherwise, you will see the abuse. And it does happen. You see leaders come up with their whole cabin and they're just saying, throw everything on. I want to buy it for you. So
I'll Venmo you later, right? Yeah.
How about staff spouses, like a spouse is in front of you? Would that apply?
Yes, they're a dependent. So, and often let's be honest, often the spouses are volunteering and helping at camp. And so we want to make sure they feel very welcome. That 20% does apply to them.
And
so the staff member themselves have to be standing in front of you. It can be
no.
Great.
And even if you know that they're kids of a staff, you can just give them discount. I will say that there's times that staff come in and don't tell you that they're staff. You ring up everything and then they come back and say, you didn't give me my discount. So you've got to fix it at that. It's pretty much it's a return and redo. With Square, I wouldn't try to finagle the system, just do a flat out return and start over.
All right. And then we have another thing is we have volunteer coupons that get handed out on the first leader meeting. And we had some clarification around this just recently. So you might run into this. But the clarification is this: one item in the store, 20% off. And the admin managers are often the ones producing and printing off and handing out these coupons. So, you might just clarify, make sure they have the most recent template that's in our manual. It's only in the store. So. All right, the next thing is cash handling and security measures. So as we read these, just want you to underline keywords. And for timing, I'm going to read, so starting with A, all money from all retail locations and vending is counted and double counted using 2 people. Vending restocking also includes 2 camp staff persons. So kick yourself off mute. What are the most important words in that statement?
2 people.
2 people. I feel like you're going to hear me say that over and over and over and over and over again. That's the big takeaway. Count twice, but collect in 2s. There has to always be accountability with money, especially with vending. You might not think about it, but every time you open that vending machine to restock it, there has to be 2 people because you have access to the cash. So that's just a big thing. Start off from the very beginning, two, 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 two. And one of the things I used to do was I used stocking the vending machine as quality check-in time with my intern, or for them to go together and check and have a good check-in. So there's great ministry that can happen as you're counting. Number 2 is when checks come in, you need to stamp the back for deposit only. These should be pre-made stamps, whether it's a push or an old-fashioned stamp. That just helps as a security measure. Second is deposits are made every day a retail area is open. This happened with the transition to Square, but if you're open and you've had transactions, you need to do a deposit. That doesn't mean you need to do a bank run, but you need to have a deposit for every day. That's a great way to match things up. D, cash drawers are left ajar when they're not being in use. So when you end the day in the store, you want to take out the cash tray and you want to put it in a safe and leave the drawer portion ajar so that someone can see visually there's nothing there. E, it is recommended that only one person operate the point of sale for an entire shift. The reason behind that is if there's errors, it's easier to say to Tommy, hey, Tommy, what do you think happened? We're $56.25 off. Do you remember any return? Sometimes if that one person's there, there's continuity in what happened and accountability. It's next. F is recommended that each store have a safe for cash register trays and the cash reserve fund to ensure cash is kept secure. I would say if you land at your location and there's no safe, please let me know because that is a security standard that we keep in place. So everything should have be under lock and key when the store space is not open. The next one gets a little prickly, and it says to provide comprehensive stewardship to inventory, investment, on-hand cash, and proper food safety access to retail locations, and that's all of them, is limited to retail staff only. So on this, I would say you have the opportunity to really ask who has access, who has the keys. At Clearwater, for example, only the retail manager has the key to the store. Now that can be frustrating for guest services. I actually think sites for safety and building security, but the camp manager can't get in the store. The guest services manager can't get in the store. If there are things that a guest might need, we encourage guest services to have a stack of toothbrushes or dollar store items, but really the retail staff should be the one that has access to those spaces. There's money in there. It's very easy to grab a sweatshirt for a staff person, but not tell us who's paying for it. That's a way that inventory can get lost. So I would just really revisit that as a security if you're not sure who has access. And then the last, go ahead, question.
Is that like, that's the national standard for it? Okay. That's good to know.
Now,
There's a lot of people that have access.
Now, Abigail,
I
I would say there is a culture at Lake Champion that we've run into this in the past before even Ellen was there.
Yeah.
I would say as a new camp manager comes in and a retail manager officially, I know you're in an interim role for now.
Right.
That needs to be tightened up because a lot of people have been playing variety of roles at Lake Champion.
Yeah.
And so it makes some sense, but I would say it's a place that needs to be tightened up soon.
Okay. Okay. That's good to know because I have tried to tighten it up, but with no success.
I know. Usually it's guest services like, hey, I need access because I have people come in late on a Friday night and have a toothbrush. And our answer is great, dollar store, have a stash. Yeah. So,
yeah.
All right. And then the last one is access to the cash reserve fund is limited to the retail staff. So that's the manager and the specialist. You can give that to an intern as well, depending on your staffing. Now, let's just say cash reserve fund is a fancy word for petty cash. It's the box that you should have somewhere between 500 and Tammy, did you have about 1,000? You had a bigger number. You had about 1,000. Depends on
Yeah,
your.
I have big numbers, but that was definitely something that Kathleen and I talked about along with the camp manager and reasons why, because the bank's over an hour away from us. We can't easily get funds in.
Yeah, Angela, what are you at petty cash wise?
That I would put that as a note to talk to Jilly about that today. What would be a good way or a good number for us? I
MC,
can't remember what it was in the summer. When I was here.
yeah, I don't have a feel. MC, what about you? Do you know?
I don't know what it is at Sharp Top right now. Crooked Creek used to be 650 was what we had.
God, some of that's again, there's a lot of dynamics. Some folks had it too low, and so about a year or so ago, I really challenged people to bump that number up, and I gave them a range of 500 to 1,000. You don't want too much exposure, but if it's a Sunday afternoon, your bank is not open, and it's 5-day camping, and it turns, and you run out of dollar bills, you're stuck. So that petty cash or cash reserve is there for you to make change request in. There is a log. So if you read today's Monday retail update, there is a log that every time you pop it open and you come in and out of it, you want to have a rhythm of reconciling it to verify that it has 500. And how many people are doing that? Just curious. Two. Always two. Always two. Okay. All right, so those are some there's just some best practices there. Now let's talk about how we take money. And Debbie, you have a question.
Sorry, just a quick clarifier. So you said deposits every day. What if you have multiple openings throughout the day? Do you do the deposit after every single opening, or do you wait until the end of the day?
End of the day, so one deposit for every day. So Square has a cutoff about 2 a.m. depending on your time zone. And so if you're open, let's say your coffee shop is 6 a.m., you close it, you don't need to do a deposit. Just keep it in pending, hold. Let's say it opens again in the evening from 10 until midnight, no problem. You just want to do that day deposit. All of the transactions will be captured in Square by the end of like 2 a.m. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, question though. See who answer. You have the coffee shop open in the morning. What do you do with your cash drawer when you close it before you open again?
In the safe.
Yes, that's right. Pop that drawer open, but take the cash.
And I'll add, if you have access to your vending machines and it is a Sunday and you run out of ones or you need quarters, go buy them from the vending machine, but take 2 people. Because you'll be amazed at how, I mean, I know not everybody has access to their machines because some are vendor managed, but it's a great place to go get that extra change if you're running tight, and it does happen.
Great point. See, that's a great pro tip right there. All right, so how do we take cash from our customers? So I'm going to say yes or no to each of these things. So we take cash. Yes, we do. We take checks. Yes, we do. Just make sure you stamp the back. Gift cards. We sure do. Remember, no discount on those when they're purchased. Do we take P cards? Yes, we do. Now, the little trick with that one is this one I think is so hard to it's so easy to forget, and that is take the tax off any P card purchase. So these are tax exempt. We don't pay tax on staff who are using their P card. They're saying by using their P card that the item that they're buying is for ministry purpose, and Young Life as a ministry is exempt from paying sales tax. So that's a trick. You're going to have to train your summer staff. If I was training summer staff, I'd probably have a Post-it note on the register because that's an easy one to forget. All right, internal transfers. Yes, we do. This is also one you take off tax. So this is really a P card, just the slow version and the free version. Now, of all these tender types, this is your slowest, but it's your cheapest. If someone uses a P card, you still pay credit card fees, but an internal transfer, you don't, but there is people work involved. So my guidance to you is if it's 250 or more, use an internal transfer. But if the line is running out the door, your P card is your fastest.
Kathleen, I have a question about internal transfers. And I was talking kind of when Lacey and I passed off, she had mentioned something that I think I probably need more clarification on of when you do an internal transfer, like the account that it goes into, does it go into the 9,000 account? Because I've been working with someone who's coming this week who wanted to do a transfer or a P card, but wanted to like code it to a certain spot. Like, does it matter P card or internal transfer? Like, what would be like the best practice?
That's a great question. I'm going to actually look at Tammy and Brandon because Brandon runs the FS report. I believe when you do an internal transfer, we ask for a 4-digit number. So you're going to do their area number. So NY32. I believe that when that goes up to the FS report, it's dropping into camping and there's no other variation. That's my
we don't put where it's going because at that point it's going to hit that area and then the area determines where they want to code it to. So I've never put down a specific account code.
Yeah, I don't think they get a choice on that. I think it just goes to a certain account and we just tell our bookkeeper where it goes and it gets transferred out of that.
Yeah. To that point, MC, if they did want to code it to a specific sub account, they would use their P card because then the charge hits them and they get to decide. But on internal transfer, we're dropping everything via the FS report. And I do think it's hitting camping exclusively. So
I think that's what I thought, but I just wanted to clarify because P card, it'll just come through Concur and they can put it exactly where they want to put it.
exactly.
Yeah. But if they have questions, they can always chat with their bookkeeper and have it moved to that other account.
Okay. Thank you.
Just remember P card and internal transfer, no tax. All right, we're keeping going. Credit cards. Yes, we take credit cards. We do pay fees every time someone uses a credit card. It's on average about 2.5. So if you're just doing some math and want to see what's the cost of me taking it, 2.5. We also, I want you to put off to the side the acronym PCI. This is controls that we'll talk about from time to time. I'm not going to dive into this now, but there are some PCI requirements for having a credit card machine that takes a credit card. We have to keep certain security protocols. We'll get into that another day, but just know that that's part of that gig. Debit cards, yes, we do. Inter-camp transfer. Yes, we do. So this happens when your awesome food service manager comes in and says, I want to buy a water bottle for all of my interns. You say yes. The gift here is we mark those down 50% because we're saying we're going to transfer from our department to their department at cost. That's the intention behind that. So anything that they're using for their work, we don't want to make a profit from them. We don't charge them tax. We, run it like an internal transfer, or they can use their P card. So, but that's an inter-camp transfer. And then the last one is store credit. That's the only one that's a no. We do not take things on store credit. In fact, honestly, I would add a J to this list and say cash back. As of just 2 weeks ago, we stopped doing cash back. So we stopped playing the ATM game because we're paying fees on that. And we were finding that on that last day of camp, area directors were coming and saying, can I have $100? And all of a sudden our PARs were gone. We had no money left. So we are out of the cash back business. So, okay. Yeah, Tammy's really happy about that.
Hey, Kathleen, under H, is that wouldn't include sales items, correct? Like an intercamp transfer, we'd still be wise and not give them something that's already on sale.
No, they can take that. You just want to make sure that you're giving it to them, selling it to them at cost. So you may have to go in to that item and see what you paid for it. and then put that in as the price adjust in Square. Now, I'll add to this because sometimes they show up. Do we take $2 bills? What about dollar coins? Yeah, they're cash. We take them. My recommendation is on that. Anytime I would get a $2 bill, I would stick it where my 50s and 100s go so that it's going in that deposit that night. You don't want to hang on to those. Nobody wants them back, honestly. You might get somebody asking for it if they see somebody hand it to you, but I've never had that. So it goes to the bank automatically. And then definitely deposit those dollar coins too, because let's face it, these kids that are working, our summer staff aren't used to seeing a lot of these things. The dollar coins and the $2 bills, they're coming from their grandparents. So it could easily get confused. And so it's just best to get it out of the drawer as fast as possible.
Good word. I haven't seen a $2 bill in a while. All right. Well, we're down to the last page of policies, and then we're going to switch to Concur. So I'm going to go through these. They're really straightforward. Do we take returns? So A, with cash, you must have a receipt. Now that feels like the one thing that we're not being as gracious, but we find a lot of theft where someone comes in the store, grabs something, comes up to the counter and wants to return it. And it's just another example of theft. Also in Square, it is a nightmare to find the transaction to put it back without the receipt. There's a little barcode on the bottom. So this is just one of those things. You should have a sign on your register. You should train your summer staff that if someone buys cash, just say, be sure to hold on your receipt if you want to make a return. Just something simple. But you got to have a receipt if it's paid for in cash. Items paid with a credit card are super easy to return, no problem. All right, and then these are just a list of some random things that are important to know. Camp Retail Guide, also known as the CRG, just you need to make sure you need to update it every March. And those of you that are starting new have the greatest appreciation for a current CRG than anyone. It is your retail operations at your location. It's all the inside scoop. And so we have a template for that, but all of you should have one. The next one is we've changed this year, Surf Safe Handler. You as a retail manager, your interns and your specialists all need to have this certification. You no longer have to be a Surf Safe, I think it's manager, where it's like a day-long class, it's $500. Your food service manager can be that for you. But all you need and your team needs to have is the handler. And I would say on that, every code or health department has some of their own dynamics. So you should check with your food service manager on that dynamic on what's required.
Yeah. Yeah. And every state is honestly, I mean, it's all different. So if you find something that's different than what you've just heard, just reach out to Kathleen or Beth.
Yeah.
Or your coach.
For sure. The next thing is in our coffee shops, we only serve 41 and change coffee. And there's a reason. 41 and change is coffee grown on a Young Life camp in Nicaragua. And so the money from the purchase of that coffee goes into getting kids to camp. So that's the business we're in. So that's the kind of coffee we serve. We have some information on how to order that, so we won't go there. National Book List. This just came out 2 weeks ago. It comes out every April or May. And it's broken down into a couple of lists. So books speak very loudly. They might seem to you rather benign, but they proclaim loudly. And so there's a lot of energy around books. So we, on the Bible list, we keep a list of the translations that our book committee has approved. Our book committee is appointed by the head of field development and training. And she and I co-chair this, and every year we review this list to keep it relevant. The only thing that I'd point out on this list that's real important is there's 20 books that we say will be at every Young Life camp. This is the required list. Doesn't change a whole lot, but we do pull off books that don't sell. We try to keep it relevant with diversity. We try and keep it relevant with titles that are popular. But we also are saying that there's a wide range of apologetics, devotions, and new beginner's walk. So those are the intention behind the required list. What I would say to sum up books is, I would say, and it's not a great year for this, is I'd look at the last year's sale to see what sold at other camp stores, and let that be a guide for the other titles that you bring in. It should really be relevancy and profitability both. All right, I'm going to pause on books. I mean, that seems just, it's pretty straightforward, but any questions about that? If you get any complaints in the store, sometimes most often it's about books. I don't know why. It's just a hot space in the store.
I do have one question. I'm assuming it's a yes, but I just want to ask anyway. I know there's like certain translations that are only allowed. We do have some bilingual Bibles. Is that all right to sell? Okay, great. As long as it's those required or the approved translations.
Exactly.
Okay.
We don't change that list very often, but sometimes there's some translations that have gotten taken off the list. But
okay.
All right, and then the last section, or actually there's two sections. The next section is the camp donation jar. So camp donation jar is a jar that should be at all registers, except crafts. Doesn't really have registers. So coffee, your snack bar, your store, it should be there. It should have a sign on it. And during the summer, we found that people have loose change. They don't want to carry it. So they'll very naturally drop it in that jar. And that money gets collected and coded, and it goes to help kids from areas that are hard to fund. And the CLT often directs where that money goes to. Now, here's the interesting thing. In the school season, so Labor Day, you can change out that sign, and you and your camp team, your camp manager, every camp has a different approach. You can decide where that money goes to. I think Lost Canyon, you guys were supporting local ministry in Williams, is my last memory. Another camp was supporting together a DGL student. So it can be a really fun conversation to have. You just need to change out your sign. When you collect it, how many people are collecting the money? 2 people. Again, it's a space with cash. So I would also suggest that you take those jars when you're putting your cash drawer and put the jar in the safe as well. So there's some logistics there, but under B, during your school season, which is Labor Day to Memorial Day, you get to decide. And then on D, you should make a deposit once a week. This is a great thing on that vending tour. Go ahead and collect the donation jars. Take that to the office. The office counts and enters it into the FS report, as well as a log that I don't know if this happens, Brandon, but some people have a Google sheet that they don't really email the retail manager. They just put it in the Google log, and that's how they communicate it. Is that true at Frontier?
We've been using a sheet, but we'll probably use a Google sheet moving forward this year.
Okay, so there's a little nuance there, which then is the last thing, is that petty cash box. It's located under A, located in the retail safe, and we reconcile it or count it to make sure it's right once a week in the summer, and then once a month in the school season. So again, I used to do this on the day I made my vending deposit, because I actually would buy and sell change from my vending deposit from my petty cash. And then I'd put the vending deposit up to the office, and then I'd make sure that my petty cash box was right, so that it was a double check. So, all right. so that's the end of my section. The last section we're going to do is Concur, which is Tammy. Tammy's going to tell you all about Concur. And then we're done for the day.